Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who many are saying might be the Patrick Mahomes to my Josh Allen. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I can't say that's the case because I've lost the last 3 pick seasons. So currently I feel like the Josh Allen. Maybe I pull it out this year, though.
Yeah, maybe this is your year. It was not Josh Allen's year. 4 teams remain. We have the Ravens, the Niners, the Lions, and the Chiefs, and 4 great teams. I mean, again, are these the best 4? Maybe. They certainly feel like the most deserving 4.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty close to the best 4 if you said it. Obviously, you could talk about the NFC ones a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I think overall, if you said, well, the Chiefs always make the AFC Championship game, that seems to be their thing now. And yeah, Baltimore's been the best team this year, San Francisco, and then, Detroit, obviously the story of the season. So this is shaping up to be a fantastic conference championship weekend, and it was capped off by a little bit of a slow start this weekend. But 3 fantastic games, I thought, this weekend in the divisional round, capped off by maybe one of the best games I've ever seen. I mean, this is up there with some of the best ones. I mean, even can be compared to the last Chiefs-Bills game. Yeah. I mean, this was one of the best ones we've ever seen.
Right. It's one of the greatest games we've seen since 2 years ago when these 2 teams played each other then. Yeah, this was unbelievable here. And we'll see if I'm not sure if the stream's being a little slow or something, because on my YouTube channel, it still doesn't seem to be playing. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But yeah, well, in the meantime, I guess we'll just, in case it's just a minute slow or something, keep things going. Okay, let's start it sooner right now. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. It looks like it just started going now. So I think we had maybe some technical issues on StreamYard's end, but we're back now, Kyle.
All right, we're back. Let's dive right into it. So, I mean, yeah, do we want to just dive right into this game? I mean, this is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Chiefs, Bills. I mean, so where do we even start with this game, right? I think we've got to start with the quarterbacks, right? Which I thought both quarterbacks were incredible in this game.
Yeah, they were amazing. This is going to sound weird. This didn't even feel like a football game at some point. I mean, this was a euphoric experience. It was honestly, I don't think we've ever seen quite like this. The 2 best players at their profession just like dealing blows like this, right? This felt like Messi and Mbappe at the 2022 World Cup final.
Sure.
This felt like Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns trading haymakers. They were just going blow for blow with each other. And these are probably the 2 best football players in the world right now, right? And they have the history, they have the pedigree, they have the talent. And, you just saw throws and plays in this game like that Josh Allen touchdown to Shakir that gave them the brief lead there back on that third and goal play. Like, there are 2 people in the world who can make that throw, and they were on the field tonight. Like, it was just, It was sensational to see those 2 kind of play their best for that long and, kind of just deal with each other at least the first 3 quarters of this game was really just Mahomes and Allen just trading haymakers and going at it. And then the defense has stepped up in the 4th.
Key ran in the chat says 2 best. I don't see this year's MVP on the field. That's true, Kyle. Christian McCaffrey was not out there.
Yeah, he wasn't out there. Lamar Jackson's gonna get his due. Don't worry, we'll get there in a second. But these 2 were fantastic.
Joe Burrow, but I agree. I mean, 2 of the best, if not the 2 best. I thought they were both just magnificent. And I mean, you kind of got to think about it as this is once again the Bills blowing an amazing game from Josh Allen against the Chiefs.
Yeah. And that was where this game got bizarre, right? Like, so the defense has stepped up in the 4th quarter, and I think if you get into the nitty gritty of this game now, not going to the, as I said, the euphoric experience of this game, getting
Mhm.
into the strategy behind this game, the Buffalo Bills came out with absolutely the right strategy, right? This is what we kind of said on our Wednesday show. They should be able to run the ball in this Kansas City off defense because this Kansas City defense is built to stop the pass. That's what they want to do. They want to rush the passer. They play 5 DBs a lot, and that's kind of how they're wired to win football games. The Bills, very smartly, came out with a lot of 6 offensive lineman sets, kind of bullied them with the run game, and I thought it worked for the first 3 quarters, obviously. They were up 24-20 at one point, and everything was going well there. I thought the problem turned for Buffalo. I thought they were getting a little too complacent with it. I thought it was a little too easy to read what was happening. It was they would try to run the ball on first down. If they gained yards, they would run it on second and short. And the Chiefs defense just kind of said enough of this, right? And I don't think the Bills, up until that last drive, where they started throwing out to Dalton Kincaid on those screen passes, throwing the ball quickly, they didn't really have a counter to it. And, you know, Buffalo, you could point to the last drive. You could point to those Allen throws. Yes, he had Stephon Diggs wide open, which I thought was a big miss. The third down play, I thought he had a guy open to the left. That was a big miss. But they had 3 drives in the fourth quarter where this offense looked unstoppable for the first 3 quarters. 3 drives in the first quarter, fourth quarter. They scored 0 points. And I thought a lot of it just had to do with their lack of adjustments until that final drive where they were just trying to run the ball up the middle every time. And most importantly, too, like Josh Allen's legs weren't really a factor much of the fourth quarter either, which I thought was probably the best part of their offense for the first 3 quarters too. And I felt like they went away from them some of that stuff, and I felt like it cost them.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, at the same time, though, it is. I mean, again, it's tough, right? Because there was such little possessions in this game. I think they had
Mhm.
8 and the Chiefs had 7. So it was like, you look at their what was happening. They went like, they had back to back touchdown drives, and then they, basically had back to back 3 and outs to follow that. That's really, and then the final drive was the long missed field goal drive. So it's like they basically had to be perfect. I agree. I agree with everything you said. I think there were some things to look back on and say, hey, this was a mistake. But they basically, 2 drives where they don't score touchdowns, and it's like, oh, well, couldn't get it done. Like, to me, the bigger story is, I think the Sean McDermott thing, Kyle. And I said, does Sean McDermott get fired if they lose this game? And one way you could say, hey, it was so close. They, missed field goal. That's kind of what happened. At the same time, though, it's like, I mean, Kyle, the Chiefs had 3.8 points per drive in this game, and that's with
Yeah.
a goal line fumble.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the issue is that, you said, yeah, there are some things to nitpick, and they played almost a perfect game, but I think now that we've seen Buffalo in this spot, they have the talent to beat Kansas City. But this is now what, the third time in the playoffs these two teams have matched up, at second or third?
Third time. They got crushed in the conference championship and then the 2 divisional round showdowns.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, this is the third time they matched up with Kansas City in the playoffs, and you know what it's going to take? It's going to take perfection, because on the other side of the field, speaking of perfection, this may be a hot take. I thought this was Patrick Mahomes' best game of his career.
Oh.
Like, this was absolutely amazing. Like, I could
Hmm.
not, what we had seen from this offense all season, all the mistakes, all the mishaps, all of a sudden were gone. And
Yeah.
I mean, this was, the last time these two teams played in the regular season, it was the pass rush that was just killing them, and they were getting after him and pressuring him. He just said, I'm getting the ball out as quick as I could. I am going to hit everybody on target perfectly every time. Kadarius Toney wasn't getting the ball. All of these things worked, and I thought Mahomes, I mean, this was a masterful. There are a few quarterbacks who could have this sort of game, in the history of football. It was, Manning, Brady, and probably Mahomes. Like, this game resembled those moments where, I need to be locked in, I need to be dialed in, and I need to be perfect to win this game. And Mahomes was perfect enough to win this game. And that was the difference in this. And yes, I think it's harsh to criticize Josh Allen for missing a couple throws, or the Bills for making a couple of mistakes on offense in the fourth quarter. But the problem is they're facing perfection and they lost. And it's because they keep running into that.
Yeah, we have a super chat. Kelsey is 4 touchdowns away from tying Jerry Rice for touchdown receptions in the postseason. Do you see any chance he catches him? Certainly possible. Again, if they can play
Mhm.
another, if he can get a couple in this run and then have another run, Definitely possible. Again, how long will we play? But that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Kyle, I get what you're saying. At the same time, though, this isn't the Chiefs team that's been scoring at will all season. I mean, this is the Chiefs team that struggled all season to score. And against Miami, you could argue, hey, they still ended up with a pretty good day, and there was some weather in that one on top of it. But prior to that, I mean, this is a team that had at times really struggled against a team like the Raiders. They really struggled. This is, even earlier this year against Buffalo, it was 20-17. I think we were all kind of expecting a lower scoring game here. Yeah, sure, it's perfection, but part of that is, you got to not let them be perfect defensively.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is now twice, really, I would say 3 times that in the playoffs, the Chiefs have just offensively rolled all over McDermott. And that's kind of why I'm leaning towards, I think you do make a move, and I think you do get rid of him. Is like, I think he's a great coach, but like, clearly he doesn't, Andy Reid has his number. So, and the AFC runs through the Chiefs. Like, you have to think about, how do we beat the Chiefs? You don't want to be, right now they're the James Harden Rockets, right? Where it's like their biggest accomplishment is losing to the team that always wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of similarities there. It's a good comparison. It's going to be fascinating. I just think it feels like it's obviously the gap. It's the hurdle that they have to get over. And it maybe is the insurmountable hurdle because, I mean, they're going up. I mean, they might be going up against the second greatest quarterback of all time. Like that's basically where we're at with this guy now.
Yeah.
And he could be on his way to being
Could be the
best.
greatest.
Let's give it another, decade.
Mhm.
But he's probably the second best quarterback ever right now, which is the crazy thing. And that's what you have to beat. And I don't know, like, so what is the solution? You get Bill Belichick, and all of a sudden you say that's who you're banking on for beating this team. I guess there's logic to it, obviously. Belichick has had success.
Yeah,
So
sure. Actually, that's a good fit. I like that a lot.
yeah. So I mean, it just kind of comes down to, A, are they going to make that move quick enough to actually get the head coach? And then B, do they feel like that's what it's going to take to get over the hump? Maybe it is because, like I said, it's the small things that make the difference in these games because the Chiefs are bringing their fastball every playoff game. This team was not very good, in respect to the top teams in the league. This was not a top 4 team in the league all season, the Chiefs. But
Right.
they're going to play like one of the best teams in the playoffs every year, and that's what you have to go up against.
Yeah, completely agree. And some people, some people in the chat, and I've also seen people in general say, "Well, Bill's defense had injuries, but like, it wasn't a factor in they've been playing good football the past month, 2 months or so."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they had been playing good football. I mean, it just, I don't know. I don't know how to. If you feel like the coaching staff is how you fix the Bills, like obviously, yeah, you could lament to the injuries, but like you said, they had played well. I don't know. Like there was a whole lot of stuff you can unpack. Like obviously the Stephon Diggs play, that was a tough catch. I'm not going to blame him too much for that one, but like he didn't have another good game, and I felt like he really needed to step up in this one. You know, I just don't know at this point what you do to fix the Bills and say, hey, this is how you beat the Chiefs, other than fix some of the pieces and maybe change the coach. So maybe that's what you say. Maybe that's the argument for firing McDermott, right? Is you say, well, we've tried everything else. You're the last option.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, we keep saying, well, if Josh Allen is this, if he's the second best quarterback in football, well, they've completely wasted the first chunk of his career, right? Only one conference championship game, like that's not good. And this is the third straight year they've lost in a game that they were favored. Twice to the Chiefs, and then last year they were favored against Cincinnati. So it's like, I mean, at a certain point, and how many years do we talk about the Bills? Like, oh, well, they're 11-6, but great underlying analytics, right? Like, at what point do we just sit here and say, well, maybe they're not coached? McDermott's clearly a great coach in terms of a team should easily hire him if he's on the market. But like, I don't know, like what about Mike Vrabel? There's good coaches on the market right now. I think there's a way. At the very least, I think you maybe got to make a defensive coordinator change. And I like Leslie Frazier, right? But it's not that I think these coaches are bad. It's just I don't think they can beat the Chiefs. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe in a year, they'll find a way to do it. But as of right now, I haven't seen it.
Well, and that's what makes this next game even more impressive too, because as we get into this next game, Mahomes not only historically has brought it for the playoffs, but he has absolutely dominated the Ravens historically. His
Mhm.
numbers against the Ravens are really impressive, and they've made the defensive coordinator change. They've retooled that defense, and that's the best defense in football. So we'll see how that matches up. But yeah, I mean, at this point, at the very least, you could argue with the Bills. It would be insane to run it back with this squad, basically, like as is.
Mhm.
If it involves, trading Diggs and getting someone else in at wide receiver, whether it be like drafting a receiver or, you know, do you try and trade for a Terry McLaurin or something like that in the offseason? Retooling that way, I think, is an option. But, you have to change something because you can't keep running into this brick wall and say, well, the next time it's going to work.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, I didn't realize Josh Allen's box score stats weren't great, so there's gonna be some takes there.
Oh yeah, under 5 yards attempt. I did see that at the end. I don't care. He was really
Yeah.
good. Like I said, I just think the big thing was that the adjustments late were just a little too late. And if you're gonna blame Josh Allen for those two throws, I say fine because you know what? I think Patrick Mahomes would have made those two throws, and maybe that's the gap between those two. He went for the hero shot instead on that play on second down instead of taking the easy first down there. But at the same time, he's hardly, the defense failed to get a stop for 3.5 quarters, and that was the difference in this game.
We're also not talking about Patrick Mahomes enough. I think. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, he's putting himself 6 years in the NFL, made the conference championship all 6 years. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not joking when I say I think he might be the second best quarterback of all time now. Like, I don't think that's an insane take. I mean,
Yeah.
he is. This is probably the most competitive football has been in some time, and he just continually resets the trend. And he all these teams come at him, and he's still making his way to the conference championship every year. I mean, I picked the 49ers and Chiefs preseason, so I'm feeling pretty good right now for my
There you go.
picks. But I'm just like, the at this point, like all of these teams, we talked about how competitive this AFC conference is this season. The AFC is one of the most competitive conferences we've seen in NFL history. And he just vanquished everybody still. He's still getting to the mountaintop. And it doesn't matter how many teams you throw at him. We're talking about, this Chargers vacancy, which like, yeah, you have Justin Herbert, but you got to play Patrick Mahomes for 10 years, right? We're talking about the Bills who have been a fantastic football team for 5-6 years, firing their football coach despite all the success because it's not good enough to beat this guy. This guy is a one of one. This guy is on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, and he absolutely deserves all the accolades coming his way.
Yeah. Let's move on. Why don't we? Plenty more to talk about Kansas City. Let's just go reverse chronological order. So Bucks Lions. This was a sad game, Kyle. This was a heartbreaker as it felt like the Bucks kept making it close. The Lions seemingly were ahead. I mean, they were ahead the whole game, right? And it was just can Tampa Bay, keep up. And every time they fell behind, it seemed like they had a punch with usually a big Mike Evans play. Ultimately, though, Mayfield throws the game-sealing interception, and what was for me as a Tampa Bay fan, it's hard to be too mad about this at the end of the day. I mean, this was an amazing season. No one expected Tampa Bay to make the playoffs. They were 4-7. I mean, it was a disaster to find a way to not just win the division, but win a playoff game and play a very good team, very tough. This was I'm very happy with this season. It was a very fun season, despite the disappointing ending.
Yeah, this was a really fun game, and yeah, I mean, this is obviously a half Bucks podcast, so we could start with the Bucks a little bit here. We will get to the Lions. Don't worry, Lions fans. You deserve all your flowers here. But yeah, I mean, this was this team was a few plays away from a NFC Championship game, which seemed inconceivable preseason. I think we put them last in our rankings. We did a rankings of teams most likely who didn't win the Super Bowl to win or to make the Super Bowl. And I think we had them last because of the quarterback situation.
Right.
And so this season from Baker Mayfield is, I mean, just one of the more improbable, comeback seasons I can remember. And I mean, he was amazing this season. And yes, he had some mistakes in this game, some bad mistakes, and a bad throw at the end, trying to make a big play. But I mean, he was just an absolute warrior in this game. And, the Lions took that 2-score lead, and I was like, okay, this is the dagger. and he immediately just goes down the field and scores and hits Mike Evans in the end zone. So, I mean, it was a fun Buck season. I think they were a little outmatched in this game, and it came down to, they didn't force the mistakes out of Jared Goff that we've seen Jared Goff make, including, Goff did put the ball in harm's way despite having a fantastic game in this one. He did put the ball in harm's way, including that first possession, that throw to the end zone Jamel Dean could have had. And that, the Bucs didn't capitalize on those plays, and when the Lions defense had opportunities to make those plays, they did capitalize, and that felt like the difference.
Yeah, I agree. Overlap 618. This is overlap with my second reverse mortgage. I bet it all on the Chiefs, and baby, we are back. Overlap lives on. I'm back, baby. I am back. Post the number. I'm calling in. Yeah, maybe it's at some point. Yeah, I mean, this was, again, this is a fundamentally flawed football team, right? There's plenty of issues this team has, but the fact they were able to make it this far was just a lot of fun. I saw a couple people in the chat saying like, "Oh, time to apologize to the Lions." What they showed me? I'll say this. I don't know. How have I been wrong about the Lions? Everything I've said about the Lions is true. I picked them to win this game, and again, it's the opportunistic defense, right? It's not a defense that it's going to give up yards. It's going to give up points. But if they can make the big plays, that's what they have to do, and that's what they're doing right now. And you talk about Goff. Yes, he had that one where he threw it right to Jamel Dean. Jamel Dean dropped it. Seems like each game now, right? He's had one like just boneheaded play and played perfect. Other than that, the throw to Dean, and then in the the Rams game, when he just threw it backwards, right? But other than that, and neither ended up coming back to bite him. And it's like if that's what Jared Goff is going to get you, you feel pretty good if you're a Lions fan.
Yeah, you can live with one mistake if he plays like this the rest of the game. I mean, as good as this game was, I mean, it was decided at 24-17. And I mean, the best part of this game for the Lions, I mean, this was one of the most impressive like half drives I've seen from an offense this season, because they had 3rd and 15 at the Detroit 44 with 9 minutes left. It goes Amon-Ra St. Brown for 16 yards, short pass to Jahmyr Gibbs for 20 yards, Sam Laporta for 7 yards, Jahmyr Gibbs run for 4 yards, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown in the end zone for a touchdown. It's just like all of a sudden it looks like Tampa's going to get the ball back, chance to tie this game. They got 9 minutes to go down the field, and then the Detroit went to their star power, and their star power came through, and that was an incredible 5-play sequence that led to the touchdown. Which, another one of the things I think you can lament Buffalo for was not targeting that rookie corner for Kansas City enough. As soon as Zion McCollum came into the game, Ben Johnson's like, that's our guy. Jared Goff said, that's our guy. And that was just a matchup nightmare for Tampa Bay down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Zion McCollum. Like, he's a 5th-round pick, that's just getting thrown out there. And I mean, the Tampa Bay's had corner issues, but they went, guys get hurt, right? Like, they went into the season with him as their number 3 outside corner, and he was playing a lot of safety, and he did all right as a safety. He could maybe work there, but then when he had to come in and play corner, it wasn't. I mean, again, you can't 3rd and 15, like that feels like that was in many ways the play. You can't have Amon-Ra St. Brown on Zion McCollum one eye, and got to give a ton of credit to the Lions, right? They set that situation up, but still, for Tampa Bay, that was kind of a mistake there. It was, but again, it's like, Lions are really good. You almost have to play Tampa Bay would have had to play a perfect game probably to win this, but they didn't. I mean, again, drop passes. Mike Evans drops one that leads to an interception. The all those free rushers was just a disaster. Baker Mayfield took a tough sack. Obviously another interception. It's like they needed to play a perfect game to beat this team, and they didn't play a perfect game. But that being said, I mean, again, the right team I think pretty clearly won this one.
Yeah. I think the right team did win. And like you said, Detroit's defense, it certainly wasn't perfect. I mean, they gave up 350 yards passing to Baker Mayfield and nearly 6 yards a run. And Tampa Bay, obviously they were down, so they had to, but, shockingly under Todd Bowles abandoning the running game altogether. I thought that was, I didn't think it was bend but don't break, I guess, at times, right? Like, they didn't break, but, I thought some of the things they did really well. I thought they timed their secondary blitzes exceptionally well in this game and caught Tampa Bay by surprise on a couple big plays. And like you said, when Baker put the ball up for grabs, they made the plays. And especially at the end there, getting that interception on the play over the middle. So, it certainly wasn't a perfect defensive performance, and this Lions defense does have flaws, and it'll be interesting to see how that they manage that against San Francisco, whose offense still looks like it can be a buzzsaw at any given moment. But they made the plays when they had to, and that was the difference.
Yeah, I think I don't know. The Lions team they're so fun. I like everyone on there except for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who is he's just the worst. One of the worst, maybe the most annoying person in the NFL.
He's definitely not he's probably the least fun player to play against, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like a Brad Marchand thing, basically.
Yeah, well, but at least Brad Marchand's like good. I don't know, like C.J. Gardner-Johnson can't even get start playing time in this Lions secondary.
Yeah, fair. He was good last year.
Yeah, I'm annoyed with. Yeah, I know he's been hurt, whatever. But he was a Saints guy that always gave us fits. I don't know, they're just one of the all time annoying guys to play against. I want to root for the Lions, but I don't. I can't root for a team with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I'm sorry, I just can't. What did Baker do? Baker was just hanging out. Why was he so mean to Baker?
Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely a pest. I would agree with you there. He's been a pest his entire career. So, but obviously there's some effectiveness to it. He's had some good seasons. So I think it's a, I don't know. Like, so this is going to be obviously a really tough matchup. San Francisco's kind of been, the boogeyman of the NFC this season. They've dominated all the good teams they played. But how much are you willing to entertain the idea of a Lions Super Bowl appearance now 1 game away?
Well, I looked at the line. They're 7-point underdogs still at this point. So it's which feels about right. I think that they have again, they have a puncher's chance, right? This offense, you can't count them out against anybody, but I think they have a bit of I'll apologize to the Lions if they can win next week. My thing about the Lions was always this is a good team that can win playoff games, but if they have to play one of the top dogs, I think they could be in trouble. And again, we'll see if that's the way it is. I mean, you look at the 4 teams that are currently in the playoffs. It's 2 elite quarterbacks, Lamar and Mahomes. It's a quarterback on a rookie deal, Purdy, and then the exception, Jared Goff. And he went up against 2 other quarterbacks who aren't elite, but we're getting paid. Baker's not getting paid, but they have a weird cap situation. And then the Rams. This is their first real, I think, big dog they're playing, and we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, we'll definitely see how it matches up. One of the things I've continued to say about Detroit is at least when they go into the San Francisco game, you can feel confident that there's a chance they score with them. And I definitely think they can score with them. And I think a lot of it has to do with what I saw with Green Bay's offense did against San Francisco this week too. So we'll see how that matchup goes. And, I think it should be fascinating. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and not to step on that too much, but also, what's the weather? I think that factors in. If it's raining, maybe you have a chance, given how Purdy was holding on to the wet football. But yeah, I don't know. Where else can we go here with this one? I don't know. I feel like I guess we probably covered it, right?
Yeah, I think we covered most of the game. Like I said, I think it was a pretty well coordinated game from Ben Johnson. I thought, I guess I guess he's not losing his job because of how they performed end of the season, winning the division, winning a playoff game. But the Todd Bowles factor definitely played in this one, right? Like there was the punt on 4th and 1.
Yeah.
There's some of those aspects to it still. And even Chris Collinsworth was saying they hired this offensive coordinator because they wanted to be as conservative as possible. And I don't know. So he's not going to get fired because they did well enough to keep his job, but it's definitely one of those frustrating aspects, right?
Yeah, he had some of those moments. I was also annoyed. Levante David had an amazing sack that set up the 3rd and 15. I'm like, there we go, star player making a star play, keeping the game alive, making a 1-score game, and then we get the 15-yard completion happened after. But I know Bowles had his frustrating moments, but it was again can't argue with the results here.
Yeah, definitely can't argue with the results. Mike Evans was fantastic too. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta was fantastic. It was just, all the stars showed up and they really performed in a big way. I was impressed.
Yeah. And now we have our entire team that we have to resign.
Good luck with the cap space. So how big of a contract are you okay with giving Baker?
Yeah, we should have mentioned that. I think you have to go in with a number. I don't think you can just say we're going to pay him no matter what. Like if he wants 40 million, like okay, let the Giants do that. Like I think that there is a cap on it. Like right, like you can't say we're going to pay you whatever. I don't know. I think a $30 million contract feels fine, and good. You think Todd should get moved back to DC? Is super chat. That's just not happening. You're either firing him or you're,
Be a DC somewhere else if he gets
yeah,
fired. So
yeah, he'd be a great defense. Buffalo could hire him.
yeah, honestly. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know like what the biggest like number on the market he'd get. Like I don't think like Atlanta's going to be rushing to give him like $30 million or anything like that. So it'll be fascinating. I think if Baker's $20 million and under, I think you consider it if you're Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably where the number is, and you have the franchise tag still, which would be higher than that, but at least it's still for 1 year, which I think would be a good move. But again, there's so many guys, and Mike Evans, Tristan
Yeah.
Wirfs, Antoine Winfield, Levante David. I think I might be missing someone too. So many guys they have to make sure that they go out and re-sign. So again, love Baker. I really hope this is not the last of Baker any Bucs uniform, and I don't think it will be. I think he'll remain on the team. I think they will just do whatever they can to pay him. But my mindset is you can't just do whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he clearly showed that he is fit to be an NFL starter, right? After a couple crazy years. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's not crazy to think that in a similar contract situation, situation altogether, he could be a player of Jared Goff's caliber, right? And Goff is now, what is this? Goff's third NFC championship game? Fourth?
Is it third or second? I'm trying to remember.
Well, he made the Super Bowl the 1 year. Did he make
Right.
another AFC championship game? I can't remember. Or NFC
Uh,
championship game, but obviously
I'll,
this is his
yeah.
second at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's just it's not crazy to think he can be put in those situations with the right team.
Yeah. And also it's like, I don't know, if you go to New England or something, it's like I don't if you're Baker, you probably want to stay in Tampa Bay too. Like it worked out well there. You don't want to go in some sorry for bringing up New England. But you go somewhere that, if you go to Denver, it's like you don't know if that's going to work out. If it's working here, you kind of want to stay here.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. Well, let's move on. Why don't we? 2 games left. One of them was great. One of them not so much. Packers Niners. This was an awesome game as well. So many. I mean, the play that kind of I feel like this whole game, summed up one play was that long punt return by Green Bay where they then fumbled, but then still recovered later. That was an incredible play. This is an incredible game. And again, I think weather affected things. I think especially with Kyle. I don't know. I feel like I tweeted this out. I feel like everyone I talk to in real life has the exact same take, but then on Twitter, like people just get crazy with it. Where it's like Brock Purdy had a disappointing game, but then was great in the final like couple minutes, right? Like that's the take, right?
Yeah. You know, look, look. I'll give him the credit here. I'll give him the credit. So I don't think it was his best day, but you know what? And I'll go there with the comparison. There were a lot of playoff games that I don't think Tom Brady had his best game,
Sure.
and it wasn't
Hmm.
his best performance. But what made Brady Brady was the last couple drives of the game, he was kind of money. And I think Purdy, outside of the George Kittle touchdown, which was an excellent throw, was largely kind of terrible for the rest of the game. But that last drive, they put the ball in his hands. He had to make throws. They couldn't hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey every play. And he made some of the best throws of the day on either side of the ball. And that was impressive. And leading that final scoring drive was impressive. So I thought it was an impressive final drive. It wasn't his best day, but nobody's going to remember that because he led the final drive and San Francisco won.
Yeah, exactly. That again, totally agree. 100% agree. That is where I'm at as well. I mean, yeah, it was that we can start with that final drive. That it was incredible. I mean, it was exactly what he had to do. He didn't make a couple plays too. Like he had a nice like 9-yard run. I thought was really
Mm-hmm.
impactful there. Like and again, just runs the offense effectively. And part of why I'm also not necessarily crushing him for somebody. I thought he had a bad first 3.5 quarters, but part of why I'm not crushing him is I do think I'm willing to start the Brock Purdy small hands can't play in the weather. I actually don't even know his hand size, but I'm assuming he's small hands can't play when it rains.
I don't even know his hand size, but I'm assuming small hands. That's so funny. Um, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the rain did affect it. I mean, it probably did affect it, but there's probably what, like, two weather resistant quarterbacks in the league, honestly. Like, and they were the guys playing in Buffalo this weekend. Like, obviously the weather has effect to almost anybody. So sure, it probably played a part. But like you said, um, there was just multiple big plays. The pass to Brandon Ayuk on that final drive, hitting George Kittle again. He did everything he had to on that last drive and commanded the offense. And then it led to that McCaffrey touchdown. So yeah, I can't I can't fault him that much because yes, it was a definitely frustrating game. And I was texting with friends during the game saying he looks pretty mediocre, but it doesn't matter if you're pretty mediocre if the last drive is a touchdown.
Well, unless you're down like 4 touchdowns at that point.
Well, sure, yeah.
Okay, so next week looks like it's partially cloudy. Okay, hope for Detroit.
If we get rain, are you betting Detroit instantly?
I'm instantly minus at least +7. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not taking too much into hand size and how that works.
Well, but hear me out, because this is now twice that he's looked significantly. He's had a really bad game in bad weather because of the Cleveland game earlier.
But the worst part of the rain, he delivered like a 40-yard touchdown pass on the run. So like,
well, maybe he needs it to be a specific moisture. Yeah, I have. If you ever had like your windshield wipers wear out, and it's almost like if it's drizzling, it doesn't work, but if it's like raining hard enough, it then works again. I feel like that's Brock Purdy. Maybe he needs like enough wetness.
Enough wetness. Oh God, to clip that out of context. Yeah, I don't know. It's a look. I can't explain the science behind it. I mean, obviously the wet ball is going to be a bit of a problem, but he made good throws with the wet ball too. So I think there was part of the, I just don't think he played that well. I don't think he played that
maybe
well.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he had a bad game. I don't know.
So it's, and it's okay. Cause like I said, he made the last drive and, on the flip side, it was almost a reverse effect. Cause I thought Jordan Love played really well until the last drive of the game where, the ghost of Brett Favre definitely compelled him to make that throw. And that was very Brett Favre-esque rolling to his, it looked almost like the Brett Favre throw in the 2019 game against the Saints with the Vikings, where he's rolling to his left, fires it left, rolling to his right, fires it left across his body. I mean, I felt so bad because he had been he had been playing such mistake-free football for like 2 or 3 months. And then that was just like seeing that throw happen there. I was just like, oh no, that's not what we want. That's not what we want there. And, Packers put themselves in a great position to win this game and pull off this upset. And it was all the way down to the wire.
Yeah. Elijah, how do you even ponder passing? You can't not read that in the, the Vikings color commentator voice when you see that, one of the all-time calls. The last 4 drives for Green Bay, though, that's it, right? I mean, you talked about the interception, but these are the last 4 from latest in the game. They had the interception. There was then the missed field goal drive, or Aaron Jones gets that 50-yard run, but then they aren't able to capitalize and then missed a field goal. They had a 3-and-out where Jordan Love missed. He was under pressure, but he missed Aaron Jones, who was open past the sticks, and then he had a tipped pass interception, but due to a missed throw. As well. So it was like he was so good before that. And he even had multiple touchdown drives right before that. But that stretch, wasn't able to get it done when it mattered most.
Yeah. And it's almost like taking parts of the last 2 games we just talked about because similar to Buffalo, they were fantastic for 3 quarters and looked like they were going to win this game. And then the fourth quarter, it just seemed like things flipped and they didn't have an adjustment to it. And then, similarly to the Tampa game, like, Detroit kind of capitalized on mistakes and Tampa did not capitalize on mistakes, right? And, Green Bay also dropped multiple interception opportunities in this game that might have turned the tide. And, especially when they were up multiple scores, they dropped multiple interception opportunities that felt like they could have probably put this game away before it even got to the fourth quarter. So, you look at moments like that and kind of say like, I think you got to be kicking yourself a little bit because this was a huge opportunity to pull up maybe the best upset of the season and, get yourself in the championship game.
After already pulling up what still has been the best upset of the season so far.
Yeah. I mean, this would have been really impressive. I mean, you're looking at the youngest team in the league. What this team was, I mean, this team was what, 2-5 to start the season. They completely turned their season around. I think Matt LaFleur deserves a ton of credit for what happened this season and the
Mhm.
job he did. But yeah, I mean, they had their opportunities in this game to beat the Giant, and they missed.
Yeah, definitely. It's I don't. On one hand, this was an amazing season, right? You can't not look at this and say what a season by Green Bay to do all
Mhm.
this, because like everything I'm saying about Tampa Bay is true about Green Bay, but also Green Bay now has the super bright future because you have the star quarterback. It appears to be a star quarterback so far, but at the same time, it's like, man, if Jordan Love gets a touchdown drive at the end there, or if they just stop Purdy at the end there, and they're going to Detroit, a place they've already won this season, like, I don't know. Detroit would have been favored in that game, but like, it, a great opportunity that they weren't able to capitalize on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic season, and this team's going to be really exciting to watch. I'm curious to see the offseason moves they make. Obviously, the biggest question is going to be paying Jordan Love, which I think Adam Schefter already reported that they're ready to, make him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL.
Sure.
We'll
If you're
see.
Love, get the contract now, right? Like,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
mm,
And maybe it'll work out. But I mean, based on what we saw preseason or what we were expecting preseason, and based on what we saw to start the season, I mean, this is the best case scenario though, still, because you got this quarterback who looks like the future answer, and you're gonna have him for the foreseeable future. You have these receivers that are all young and really talented that have just kind of blossomed into real players, and maybe you can get a healthy Christian Watson season with guys like Dobbs, Reed, all Wicks, all these guys who have shown moments and had moments in these late games. All of that put together, saying Green Bay should be a force, and the Lions got the NFC North this season, but maybe it goes back to Green Bay sooner than we think.
I also think this is funny because like the Packers defense pretty objectively did not have a good game. Like they
Hmm.
gave up, I think it was like 2.6 points or 2.7 actually points per drive this game, and they had multiple drop picks along with Purdy missing on a ton of open throws throughout this one. And yet, despite that, is Joe Burry is he going to have a job next year?
Oh my gosh, he might honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, just going through some of the numbers here, like 5.6 yards per play. They had more yards per play in this game for San Francisco. 356 total yards. Um, you mentioned the points per drive. They were also 10 to 16 on third down in this game. Like they just converted everything, it seemed like, and some big plays there down the stretch. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna say no, he doesn't keep his job, but I wouldn't be shocked if he does at this point, which feels kind of crazy based on what this was, 10 weeks ago.
Yeah, he was best thing to happen to Joe Barry was the only three possessions in the first half for the 49ers. Also one of them, and we didn't even talk about that weird thing at the end of the half where the 49ers they decided to kill 40 seconds and then take a timeout with 1 second left to then, proceed to then run the rest of their 2-minute drill and ran out of time and had to settle for a field goal, which they missed. That wasn't great.
Yeah. Definitely not great. I mean, so that I guess that's another thing we could talk about here because they missed that field goal, and like you said, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, you can't help. You got to kick the field goal there, but like there's open reporting during this game that Matt LaFleur, I think they said basically he prays every time the kicker goes out onto the field.
Yeah.
Like, why is there not another kicker on the roster? Like, that is the absolute time that you should be signing a new kicker and not banking on this guy hitting the game tying field goal at this point, right? Like, that's insane.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was fourth and 9, 41-yard field goal. So understand why they still wouldn't defeat. But I agree. I don't know. It just that's one of the big takeaways of this week. Kickers matter.
Kickers do matter. We saw two of them. I mean, Tyler Bass is highly paid. At least this guy you say is a rookie and you move on. But
Hmm.
yeah, I never loved the idea of a coach having to say, I pray for my kicker every time he steps onto the field. And then, I mean, you're going to put him in that spot where you have 21-17 to go up 7. That feels like a time where you probably shouldn't have that kicker on your roster.
Yeah, maybe he's just really religious.
No, I don't
There's
think
a lot
that
of
was the
current.
wording behind it.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah,
I
maybe it's
don't. I
I
don't
don't
think that
know.
was a sentiment.
Okay, well, we can't say for certain. We'll see. Ready to move on to the final game?
Yeah, let's do it.
The one game that did not, fully live up to the hype in terms of entertainment value. Although this was still, again, for a worse game, it was tied at the half, right?
Mhm.
It was still interesting until Baltimore ran away with it. I actually don't think my takeaway is. I think given how the rest of the games went down, we're kind of all feeling like now, like, wow, Baltimore was amazing. They were perfect. Like Baltimore made mistakes in this game. Like this was not a perfect
Mhm.
game by ball. And even in the second half, they Lamar did try to throw an interception. It would have been a tough catch, but still, he nearly threw a turnover-worthy play, if you will. What was crazy about this game, again, talk about possessions. The Texans only had 3 possessions in the
Yeah.
final in the second half. I mean, Baltimore had those long touchdown drives that basically just iced it. So all the bulk stats for Houston looks absolutely terrible because of that. But at the same time, even their per drive stats look absolutely terrible. I mean, this was domination defensively and ended up being domination offensively in the second half for Baltimore.
Yeah. It felt weird because it was like it seemed inexplicable that Texans were gonna like tie this game at halftime, right? But it wasn't like Baltimore was also dominating the like like the standard stuff we look at when it comes to like domination in a half or something like that. They weren't dominating yards per play or anything like that. They just scored, and then the Texans got that return, right? And it felt like all of a sudden you know, it seems crazy to say Baltimore could go down to start the second half. But yeah, I mean the Ravens kind of sucked the life out of this game, right? And I mean the Texans just couldn't get him off the field. I mean that's basically what it came down to. Like, yeah, I don't think it was the perfect. I mean Lamar had some really good numbers in this game, and I thought he did some really good stuff. Like you said, there was a couple mistakes there, but it just came down to they couldn't get him off the field. They couldn't stop him, and that was the second half of this game. They ran the ball over the place. I mean, what did they have? Like 20 more plays in this game? I mean, it was absurd.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to see. Total play. Well, it was 20. It was 47 to 67. I mean, I don't know because in the first half, I feel like I saw people on Twitter at halftime being like, "Are the Ravens about to do this again? Is this happening again? Are they going to have like
Mhm.
that?" That was the vibe. But to me, again, we talk about all these great quarterbacks, but the start of this game is just the Ravens defense without their best corner. Like Marlon Humphrey wasn't playing in this game, and they did this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really impressive. I mean, this defense is fast, and I mean, it's just amazing. Like, a part of it does go to their secondary because their secondary is so really good. And, this team doesn't really have an elite pass rusher. And they've also had injuries at the pass rushing positions, but they just generate so much pressure. CJ Stroud was running for his life in this game. And their ability to just create constant pressure, whether through the blitz or just the pass rushers that they have winning. I mean, the guys out there I thought did play really well too. So I do want to give them credit. I mean, Kyle Van Noy, I still think is a incredibly underrated player in his bit part. And
Mm-hmm.
there's guys like him. I mean, the linebackers came up and made some big plays. Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, all of these guys it seemed like had a part to play in this game, and had some. They didn't even get a sack in this game, but it just felt like they was constantly under duress.
Well, again, yeah, I mean, the fact that CJ Stroud, that's honestly a great accomplishment by CJ Stroud, the no
Mhm.
sack thing. I have a super chat. Got my tickets for M&T Bank next Sunday. Cost extra for the no Swift viewing. Think the Ravens rush over the Chiefs. Thanks for a great show. Well, thank you for the super chat, and thanks for watching or listening. They have a great chance. Again, we'll get to our preview throughout the week. I'm going to have videos and we'll do our show on Wednesday to preview all of it. But definitely, that's an option on the table.
Yeah. I mean, as we were just saying, like this defense playing like this can beat anybody, right? Like they can
Mm-hmm.
dominate anybody, even Patrick Mahomes. Because, like you said, I mean, like we just putting into perspective this season, like the CJ Stroud season should not go under the radar. I mean, it's not going under the radar. This is the best rookie quarterback season we've ever seen, and I mean the kid is put into the spot constantly where, like you said, he just understands. He just gets it, right? Like the pocket presence, the ability to bail when he has to bail, extend plays when he has to extend plays. Like this is what the special players do in the NFL, and he has that. He has it. He has that factor. And yes, this wasn't his best game. yes, the Texans offense struggled, but to make it not an embarrassment, I felt like in this game was a miracle in itself. So I give him a massive amount of credit, even though the Ravens made his defense or made his life absolute hell in this game.
Yeah, but I just don't think there was anything he could do. Like, I don't like,
Yeah.
this is one of those, I don't know, basically how every game for Bryce Young went in Carolina. It's like, what are you supposed to do in this situation? But yeah, again, it's just a thing. I don't know. This is my take, right? The coverage is the most important thing. Like, the Ravens are the perfect example of that, right? Like, they have, I think, solid pass rushers, but you talk about who's the big name here. Well, big name is they're a great secondary.
Yeah. And I mean, just the way they're able to deploy Kyle Hamilton all over the field. Like he's
Yeah.
just in a position to make a play basically every time. So, I think it's a fantastic run by them. So we've talked about these head coaching hirings and, we've quickly tipped, Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick. Is Mike McDonald, like, should he be near the top of those head coaching candidates?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think he's done a really good job. And,
Yeah.
even like this Ravens defense is always seemingly pretty good. And he just has elevated it to another level, it feels like. So, I think it's a really good group. I think it's really well coached. And I think it's going to be a handful for even the Chiefs to deal with. So I think I'm really fascinated for that game next weekend. And yeah, I mean, I just thought that was a very impressive second half for the Ravens where, okay, you could probably say going into Kansas City, they can't make some of those mistakes they made in the first half. But in the second half, they can absolutely hang with anybody and beat anybody the way they played in this game.
Yeah. I mean, the way they're playing is, can anyone hang with them?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I mean, this is they could beat Alabama at this point, Kyle.
Alabama, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like we're overlooking this game a little bit, but I mean, Lamar was awesome. Lamar made some big plays. I mean, his rushing in this game was the Texans just didn't have an answer for their stuff, right? And whether it was Lamar, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, I mean, I honestly think they should be used in that read option even more. And they use it basically every damn down, it feels like at times. And I still think they could do it more and it would still be unstoppable. It is just so hard to defend him when you're trying to guess between him and the running back. And then Hill and what's the other guy's name? I'm drawing Edwards. Hill and Edwards. I mean, they're just kind of like, you know, they just mow over everybody. If you're too late on it, if you're trying to take out Lamar, they're just going to run through the guy in front of them. So I think it's going to be fascinating. I do think one of the things the Chiefs have that could be an answer though is they have a lot of speed. Those linebackers they have are very fast. Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil. So how that matchup plays out and how Lamar continue to generate those big rushing plays against the Kansas City defense, that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. Listen. First off, chat, calm down. Chat's getting wild here, Kyle. But anyway, back to the game. I don't look at this as the Ravens or like the Chiefs are going to be massive underdogs going into this. Like, the Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites. I'll have to look at more into it, obviously. But my gut tells me, like, I don't know, giving Mahomes more than a field goal feels a bit high here, just because, like you said, the matchup, that the Chiefs are going to play their man coverage. They're going to blitz Lamar, which I still think is the preferred strategy to play against him. And I do think it's going to come down to can these Ravens receivers finally win on the outside in a big matchup against the secondary that does. Because, we didn't really talk about for Houston, they were coming out blitzing in this game, and it worked for the first half. And then, Isaiah Likely, he had that big play against man coverage. And because of that, I feel like the Texans kind of went back to their zone, which I think was a mistake. I think you still have to blitz him. That Kansas City, they're going to blitz him early and often. And I do think it should be interesting to see how it works out. But again, the flip side is, will anyone for Kansas City get open? Probably not. So I think that could be a lower scoring game than people realize.
Yeah, I could see it too. And how they counter that, I think, will be interesting. And yeah, I didn't think the Ravens pass catchers were really involved in this game. Like you said, Likely had the big play. I thought Zay Flowers made a couple really nice plays in this game, but it wasn't a whole lot in the passing game. So how they kind of match that up, I think, will be fascinating. Can OBJ get involved? Can, Rashad Bateman get involved? I think those are going to be the fascinating aspects because they got to get separation in those one-on-one matchups. That's going to be the key, as you were saying. But That's part of why they invested in this receiving core this offseason, right? You
Yeah.
invest in this receiving core because you have to win these matchups in these games, and historically they haven't. Now they're more equipped to do it. So I think that's where it's fascinating.
Yeah. Let's eulogize the Texans real quick, because we're kind of bouncing back and forth. The again, you got the quarterback. You feel great. Awesome season. No one thought you were going to do anything. You ended up making the playoffs and winning a playoff game. Incredible stuff. What do you do to? What do you do from here? Is it I think they could probably try to get another tackle. Might be a move. Try to improve the offensive line because again, they have receivers too, right? Like they lost guys. Tank Dell, Noah Brown, who had a good year for them, he went down last week. So it's like just getting those guys healthy. You can always use another receiver, and then you hope that the secondary stays there because the secondary played really good this season on top of it. So is that where you're going after if you're Houston?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they do have a first round pick this year. I guess they have one for Cleveland for the 23rd pick. Obviously, they
Mhm.
famously traded their first round pick, which I guess you could say, when we talked about that trade being bad, I mean, trading the 27th pick is probably the best case scenario of what we envisioned,
Yeah.
right? So,
Mhm.
that is that's not too bad. You actually have a higher draft pick than what you originally had. So yeah, maybe they address a tackle. I still wouldn't mind another receiver in there. I know Tank Dell's going to get healthy. You can address some things on defense, but I mean, the most important thing is you have the head coach you can feel comfortable with, and you have the quarterback you can feel comfortable with. And D'Amico Ryan's CJ Stroud, we just talked about, fantastic season. D'Amico Ryan's had a fantastic rookie season as a head coach too. If he has to replace his offensive coordinator, I think that's going to be the biggest question of the offseason because I thought that was such a huge advantage of who they had there. And I thought Slowick did a fantastic job. And how he replaces them, I think, is going to be just as big of a question as the defensive coach. How you hire offensive staff is hugely important.
Yeah. I think the Bobby Slowick. That's what you want to do, right? He should be getting steak dinners every night. That's what you have to do. Be very nice to Bobby Slowick. That's what you do for the next month.
Who's that one guy that bets everything? The mattress guy, Mattress Mac. He
I'm
just
not
needs to
sure.
yeah, he bets everything Houston when they make the
Okay.
playoffs and such. He just needs to give him ownership stake in that mattress company or something. Make sure Bobby Slowick's there for a while.
Yeah, I think so. I think that might be a move. Kyle, we remember a couple years ago we were like, man, when are we ever going to get Ravens Chiefs? It felt like Ravens Chiefs those were the two teams, and then kind of the Bills and the Bengals came along, and those became the kind of it kind of became Ravens got put on the back burner. Now we're going to get it. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean, this is Ravens' best shot at winning a Super Bowl in this Lamar era, and it's just so funny how we've seen this. It's still so funny looking back on this Ravens calendar year almost, right? Where, you know, I mean, think of all the conversations we had in the offseason about Lamar Jackson
Hmm.
and then put it into perspective now of where we're at, where he's probably going to win MVP and this team's in the AFC Championship game. And there were real conversations of, is this guy worth the paycheck? Can this guy win in January? Which, yeah, I mean, it's just one playoff win against a wildcard team. So, yeah, put it into some perspective. But this team has looked like the best team this season. And they look rightfully like the favorites to win the Super Bowl right now. And there was talk of should they actually pay this quarterback in the offseason? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Kyle, I'll say this too. Kind of glad the Chiefs won. I know it's not going to be a popular take, but just because I like to have I don't know. You need a good villain.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was certainly the villain for a lot of years. My team was. So, I mean,
Hmm.
it made it
No, you
definitely
would.
more
You
fun.
specifically were.
I was too. So yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, look, here's the thing. Could you imagine if I had a podcast during the Patriots run? Oh my God.
Oh,
Nobody
that
would
would.
be listening. We'd have
Yeah.
no viewers. I would have ruined it for everybody.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, when the Patriots were good. But I just think, looking at it, I just can't take away from that game. Like there was the just circling back to that game because it was so amazing. Like I'm literally there was plays I was holding my breath during that Bills Chiefs game. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. During that Bills Chiefs game, there's plays I was holding my breath. Like I let out like a small scream on the McCole Hardman fumble at the 1 yard line which I thought was a dumb play anyways. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, there was just stuff like that over and over again. That's just one of the most amazing football games I've ever watched. And, like I said, I don't think we should take for granted how amazing it was to see those two quarterbacks play at that level against each other on the biggest stage. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun between all these teams. So, yeah, good. Should be a lot of fun the rest of the way. Kyle, let me know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, you have like audio only podcast. Anywhere you get your podcast, search on the Sideline Podcast. It should be available there. Yeah, that's it. Any final thoughts, Kyle?
No. What an awesome weekend. I mean, that was just really fun. Obviously, the Texans Ravens turned into a little bit of a dud, but fun football. The Bruins scored 9 on the Canadians, which was even better.
Okay.
I got up at 7:30 this morning to watch West Ham get robbed by a non-penalty call, so there was that too. I mean, very busy weekend. I enjoyed all of it.
Yeah, I was gonna try to do a bit where if the Lightning beat the Red Wings today, be like, oh look, Tampa Bay beat Detroit, and then they lost that too. So, but tough day.
Yeah, that was a tough day. Bruins are rolling. Beat the hell out of the Canadians. That felt good.
Thank God. I mean, you guys are Boston's in a drought right now. They need to get a championship soon.
I mean, between the Bruins and the Celtics, that's probably the best shot for the foreseeable future. So it's definitely not happening with the Red Sox. John Henry can go to hell. And
I mean, it's been what, like 6 years?
For 2018, yeah.
Okay, 2018. Oh, that'll be 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, 2018. Yeah, Red Sox. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been tough.
I don't know what to do with myself. I haven't had the just, euphoric feeling of winning a championship in a while. So I need it back.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Kyle will have that. Not this year though. 4 teams left. We'll be back Wednesday at we're doing Wednesday at 5. Back to the normal time doing that. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, thank you for everyone for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.